a consequence of the ninth wave. I think we will go back to some kind of a organization of the world where we live in small villages, but we don't experience them as boring or backward or slow, so to speak. But we simply will no longer be living in cities that are exploiting their surroundings and putting down country life in the way it has been. So it sounds to me that we are probably, you and I are probably aligned here, but maybe not. You can help.
No, that's fine. There's so many possibilities past October 28. We might even become a civilization one and travel the stars. You never know. I find a lot of merit in your 9 steps of Chichen Itza and the other pyramids signifying important stepping stones in levels of consciousness. Your theory of the creation cycle of 13 heavens and the 9 underworlds, but it seems to differ with some researchers such as Graham Hancock and Michael Cremo that show semi-advanced or even very advanced civilizations existed, based on out-of-place artifacts 12,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago. Some even consider past civilizations have had such a high level of technological civilization that matches ours. Another example is Joseph Farrell and his theories on the cosmic war based on information from the Vedic text, which would be at least tens of thousands of years old, which would put it in your cultural consciousness age. How do you reconcile this explanation where it seems that your stepping of consciousness would mean that there was a lower civilization in the previous consciousness ages?
Yeah, I think you're right there. I mean, if their suggestions would be true, then there would be something wrong with the whole evolutionary scheme that I have presented. My theory has the virtue of being consistent with, you might say, the scientific community's ways of looking at facts. And I would not, I have not seen any substantial evidence that there have existed highly advanced technological civilizations on our planet at an earlier stage. I've only seen circumstantial indications, like you mentioned the Vedic scriptures, but the Vedic scriptures, I'm sure, can be interpreted in many different ways. And I've never seen any actual artifact, or if there are artifacts from Atlantis or something like that, I've never seen anything that that seems reliable and that seems undisputable, so to speak. So I agree that if their theories would be right, then that would be very difficult to fit into my model. I just haven't seen evidence of a tangible source from their ideas, and until I do, I think mine is the most reliable.
And again, Carl, models are meant to be refined. So I guess I think there is something very, very much to your 9 steps of consciousness on and why the Mayans built those pyramids the way they did. But again, models are always there to be refined. Interestingly, the Webbot forecasts the majority of people not be in past October 28 of 2011 and into 2012, that the majority of people will not be able to handle the changes or energies, and they'll seize up and just stand frozen on the street, comatose and drooling. Is it possible that the end of the calendar creates a 2-tier reaction? Some people awaken and unleash their psychic potential, while others, unfortunately perhaps the majority, lock up in shock, not being able to handle the consciousness shift and extra energies. Could this explain why past civilizations have faltered and myths very much like the Tower of Babel?
Yes. Yes, I believe this is very possibly true as a sort of an end result of So I tend to agree that that's how people could come to sort of split up in different categories, and so I believe that is really very likely, and it may actually also then be related to these comets that are arriving. Calleman especially at the very end of the Mayan calendar, and that it may trigger that kind of a separation in people. I would not know anything about whether these kind of scenarios would explain anything in the past. But it's possible. There are certainly many different species that have gone extinct, and for instance, the Neanderthals, which were sort of our genetic cousins usually referred to, they went extinct, and we really don't know why. We know that they had bigger brains than we do, but and they were a little bit different from us, but from the Cro-Magnon people. But we really don't know why they went extinct, and maybe there was then some kind of a bifurcation point that created this difference, and one species went on and the other did not. And this may very well, something similar may very well come to be reproduced. It's likely even.
Okay, thank you. And this question is from Lenny.
Hi, Carl. I'm happy to be talking to a scientist who can talk about consciousness and enlightenment. My question is, in concert with the evolution of the universe and using our free will, you suggest that we are expanding our consciousness on a transformational path towards enlightenment. As we loosen the paradigm of our perceptions and we grow more transparent, we grow more psychic. When the state of enlightenment is reached, where the enlightened are unpredictable or truly free in their choice of actions, you write that there will be no reversal, no more lessons learned, and no more reincarnation. If we transform into enlightened beings, will there be anybody left here? If some choose to be here, will this open transparency among people or beings be enjoyable?
Oh, I would think so. I would think it would be very enjoyable, if nothing else, because of the novelty to life that it would bring. And after all, that's sort of very often what keeps us going. Novelties of different kinds and the attractions of trying something new. I can't tell, but I think the basic of the divine plan is really that we should be here. We should live in physical form, but it's just been a very cumbersome road to this enlightenment, because there are so many steps that have been necessary to provide the basis for some kind of a return to a Garden of Eden on some kind of a high technological level that I believe is coming, so I think that will be the to be here will be the life of choice for the enlightened.
Well, I guess that's good, because when I was reading your work, it seemed like you had said that they might not choose to come back, or we might not choose to come back.
I see.
After enlightenment. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm not so clear either on what does exactly enlightenment means, except for sort of transparency, and it's. I think it might be a new time for discussion about what enlightenment means.
Well, I liked what you said about compassion and being kind to one another.
Yes, that must be part of it, and it's part of the transparency, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Carl, we're going to start with the creation part of our questions. And the first question is mine, and I'm curious about the Mayan interpretation of creation and your theory of the central axis and the tree of life. You say that the Big Bang does not provide a why for the existence of three dimensions, yet current cosmology does, and is anything less than three dimensions, it's simply too simple, so the universe would collapse in itself. With at least three dimensions, the universe will have what physicists call curl, and without the spatial equations involving gravity would collapse to zero. Cosmologists think the universe has three dimensions because it's the most minimal structure. Essentially, cosmologists are saying spin, for which you do need at least three dimensions, is fundamental for the universe. And I thought you'd have an interesting take on it.
Yes, okay. Well, I guess I simply agree with what you're saying. I should also say then that there is a Mayan mythology, as we would call it, around creation. And of course, I will never know whether they actually, in ancient days, meant the same kind of things that I do. It's just that it seems to make sense, this idea of assigning this recently discovered central axis of the universe, the role that the ancients would give to the tree of life. And it's really such a small step you have to make to say that this axis is the tree of life. And if you're willing to do that, then suddenly all of the continued evolution of the universe starts to make fundamentally sense, I would say. But what might be more important is that we then also can see that the continued evolution of the universe does not have to be understood as a random, accidental process, but that it actually emanates from this tree of life, or the central axis of the universe. So, in this, since this central axis and really is something that was part of the universe from the very beginning, it means that we really here have, just in that acknowledgement that this is the tree of life, we have an opportunity to truly, in a very deep sense, merge science and spirituality, because then everything can be looked upon from both of those angles, and yet be the same thing, the same reality from two different perspectives. That's and what you've been saying here about three dimensions as being the minimal thing, that is what I'm also saying in my book, and it just makes perfect sense. Maybe it doesn't, my theory doesn't explain why there are not more dimensions in the universe, but again, probably the simplest explanation is the best.